game at Liverpool, two sides who have also gone badly out of form. For Brighton today, and we'll run through the two teams in a minute, Stephen, but Roberto De Zerbi said after that Bournemouth game last week, I was there for it, they were pretty poor. He apologised several times in his post-match press conference, but he said, I can't accept my team playing without soul. Is there a sense that we might see a reaction from Brighton today?
Well, that's exactly what he'll hope for. I think there's a disappointment in the way that they've played of late. They're very easy on the eye, but then you've got to have an end product when you're cutting through teams. More often than not, they play lovely stuff within their own back third, if you like, playing out from the back, but does it really progress you up the pitch that often? That's my big concern with it. The big thing for me is he's lost his midfield. He's lost Matoma, who's a great ball carrier. Solly March picked up that injury, and he was outstanding in the De Zerbi system last season. But then he's lost his two most influential players, Alexis McAllister and Caicedo. Two players who understood the system but were at the heartbeat of it, were good under pressure taking the ball, but also could get up and down the pitch and box to box and find those passes into the final thirds. And it's not been easy for them this season, but they are still a very entertaining team, but not getting the results.
Well, the two teams have had their pre-match handshakes in front of the Premier League paraphernalia. This is the Brighton team today. 3 changes from that defeat at Bournemouth last week. Roberto De Zerbi has brought back in Adam Webster, Joel Veltman and Danny Welbeck. The 3 that drop out are Afaya, Barco and Omani. So that really is a transition between youth going out and experience coming in today for Brighton. So Verbruggen's in goal, as he tends to be over these last few weeks for Premier League games. Veltman, Webster, Dunk and Igor in Brighton's back line. Then Gilmour and Gross, Adingra, Buonanotte, João Pedro and Danny Welbeck leading the Brighton line. His 200th start today in the Premier League for the former Arsenal and Manchester United striker. For Aston Villa, there's still no Emi Martinez, so that is a blow for Unai Emery's team. He missed the game during the week against Olympiacos because of that thigh injury he collected against Chelsea last week. So Robin Olsen continues in goal. The 2 Villa changes from Thursday night are in their defence. Diego Carlos and Pau Torres are reinstated. Cash and Longley come out of the team. So Olsen, Konza, Torres, Carlos and Digne is the back 5. Luiz and McGinn as the 2 holders. And then Bailey, Diaby, Morgan Rogers, who's been in brilliant form in recent weeks for Aston Villa, and a man who's been in excellent form the whole season, Ollie Watkins, leading the Villa line. Yeah, I'm just looking at Aston Villa lining up here at the kickoff, and so often we see Morgan Rogers out on the left-hand side and Diaby up alongside Ollie Watkins. It's actually Morgan Rogers who's in the middle at the moment, so whether he might have just tweaked the positions of Rogers and Diaby, we'll wait until they get into the full flow of things. So there's the blow of the whistle of Rob Jones, today's referee, and away we go on this Sunday afternoon on 5 Live on BBC Sounds. And Brighton going from left to right in the first half in their blue and white home shirts, and Aston Villa wearing their home strip, the claret and blue, here on rival territory this afternoon. Brighton against Aston Villa, the first of our Premier League games today here on 5 Live, as Douglas Luiz with a flick of his heel sends the ball forward for Aston Villa, away by Brighton as far as Pau Torres. Billy Gilmour just loses it under his boot slightly. Bailey retrieves it for Villa, and now McGinn has it 15 yards inside Brighton's half, and Digne on this left-hand side. Brighton beginning the day 13th in the Premier League table, the lowest they've been all season in terms of a position, but obviously for Aston Villa in 4th, in command. They are right now 7 points ahead of Tottenham, who are behind them. Spurs have a game in hand, and what Villa need mathematically from these final league games for them are 6 points. It might not necessarily come to that, Stephen, with Villa in possession on the back of the edge of their own penalty area, but 6 points is what they need to make sure they get the job done. Yeah, and they'll just know that that's in their own hands, and that's a nice thing to know. The only thing you can do, though, is take care of the short term, which is today's game, and make sure that you win this game. Robin Olsen in all green over towards our right-hand side, the Villa goalkeeper. And it's out to Digne, the left-back, whose pass infield is short. Veltman got in there. Digne recovered well, sliding in at the feet of the Dutchman to retrieve his error and get the ball back for Villa. Yeah, it was interesting listening to Unai Emery after the Olympiacos game in midweek. He said, we played too frantically. We didn't slow the game down enough. What he loves to do is
And it's very similar to what Brighton want to do. The back players, they want to draw the press out, and they want to make sure that there's gaps in midfield as Douglas Luiz drives through the middle now.
Off he goes with that slightly bleached blonde hair. Douglas Luiz out to the left-hand side for Digne, halfway inside Brighton's half. He's giving it to Diaby, who's on the left wing at the moment. Into the penalty area, there was a lunging boot from Buonanotte, but maybe a slightly exaggerated fall, which is not going to bring Villa a penalty.
No, he just went down Morgan Rogers under pressure. He's still saying it's a penalty. He is playing in that central role, and it is Diaby on the left-hand side, but lovely driving run from Douglas Luiz. A couple of step overs and then releases at the right time.
2.5 minutes played, Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. I saw Villa a couple of weeks ago at Arsenal when they won so impressively there. Being this close up, my first observation, Stephen, is I didn't realise quite how tall Morgan Rogers is. He really is. He's a bit of stature about him.
Yeah.
Adingra collecting the ball from a crossfield pass from right to left, getting Brighton on the front foot, in the box, low shot, right-footed, held comfortably by Olsen.
Yeah, and applauded by De Zerbi down in front of us. A lovely switch of play. Adingra has got blistering pace. I watched him at Anfield when Brighton went there, and I thought he was outstanding in the game. He's got that pace, and then he cuts inside on his right foot. A little bit of a tame shot, but good signs from Brighton. Yeah, but you're right about Morgan Rogers. He's huge. He's not your conventional winger or conventional runner with the ball. He's almost built like a rugby player, isn't he? A quick winger in that respect. I mean, his shoulders on the guy as well. He's a big lad.
He is. And Villa, with Watkins coming short, as he likes to do, giving it to Digne, who, as he played the pass, just got a nudge from João Pedro. And that's been spotted by referee Rob Jones. So free kick to Brighton, halfway inside their own half. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0.
One thing about Aston Villa's performance as well the other night was just how lethargic they looked, especially Diaby, who's just down on the touchline in front of us now. Early on in the season, I was thinking he's unplayable at times with that blistering pace, that change of pace over 1 or 2 yards. He's just...
What comes Verbruggen to the edge of his penalty area, clears it high up into the sky. It's going to land directly in the Villa dugout. A couple of substitutes having to punch the ball away there to make sure it didn't land on their heads. Throw to Aston Villa, halfway up inside Brighton's half on this left-hand side. 4 minutes in, Brighton 0, Villa 0. It's Digne with the ball in his hands. He's giving it to Douglas Luiz, who wasn't particularly happy with the throw there from Digne because it was quite wayward of him.
A death stare, wasn't it, from Douglas Luiz? Wasn't happy about that.
Ball didn't go away from Villa. Unai Emery at the moment is down on one knee as if he's about to start a 100-metre race in his technical area. He's got his finger pointing towards somebody or something that he wants to happen here, the Villa manager. Unbeaten in his 5 games, actually, Unai Emery against Brighton. Won all of them with Aston Villa, drew a couple when he was in charge of Arsenal against the Seagulls. As Douglas Luiz loses possession inside Brighton's half. And Welbeck comes short to get it, but working hard to win it back. Morgan Rogers in there for Villa.
Yeah, they do really well at the press, Aston Villa, in the way they're set up when they lose the ball to win it high up.
Here's Rogers, powerful run to the edge of the penalty area. He's played the pass to Diaby, left-hand side. Diaby, Verbruggen spilt it initially. Got back onto the seconds, though, the Brighton goalkeeper.
No, he should do better, Diaby, because it's well worked by Morgan Rogers. Lovely ball out to him. And then he finds himself in a little bit of space. Ollie Watkins peeling around the back. It's a really poor ball. Tries to drill it along the floor. Probably just needs to stand it up to the back post.
Really strange game when these two met each other back in September. Villa beat Brighton by 6 goals to 1. And Brighton actually, going into that game, were in front of Aston Villa in the Premier League table. Yeah,
and Brighton missed a lot of chances in the first half, and it could have changed the context of the game. But Aston Villa were clinical on the day.
This is Veltman, back to Webster, who hasn't been in the Brighton team too much in recent weeks. It has been Lewis Duncan, Jan-Paul van Hecke, the 2 centre-halves pairing of choice for Roberto De Zerbi. Webster to Gross, who is just inside his own half at the moment, the Brighton midfielder. 6 minutes in, Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. Let's find out what's going on in the early stages in the other 2 o'clock Premier League kick-off between Chelsea and West Ham. Mike Williams.
6 minutes gone here too, Chris, and it remains Chelsea 0, West Ham 0. Low-key start, in fairness. Chelsea have had a lot of the ball, but not really caused West Ham any problems with it. At the other end, West Ham had their first corner of the match. Bowen took it. A little bit of confusion in the Chelsea ranks, but they eventually managed to clear. Chelsea 0, West Ham 0.
Cheers, Mike. Thank you. Chelsea for Europe? Still possible, isn't it?
It is definitely still possible, and I think that's something they're quietly confident about that they can achieve. Just need a little few results to go their way as well.
Just wonder whether, after everything that's happened this season, what the noises would be if Mauricio Pochettino was able to get Chelsea into the top 7.
I still think he's done a great job. I really do. Everything that's going on in and around the football club, and it's a very young squad.
Adingra, lovely change in direction for Brighton. He's got past one now. He's got past Douglas Luiz. Shoots from the edge of the box. Olsen diving to his right-hand side. Pushes it away with both his gloves. Back in by Pedro. Swirling cross from João Pedro. And nodded behind by Luca Digne. And the Brighton fans like that. They've got a corner.
Yeah, he's a player who gets everyone off the seats, isn't he, Adingra? He's so entertaining, and he dips inside on his right foot. It's a comfortable save for Olsen. It was just hit so ferociously. But then Luca Digne at the back post, well defended, because there was an opportunity for a Brighton player coming in at the back post.
Now Pascal Gross is over this Brighton corner. We know how good his set pieces are. 8 minutes in, Brighton 0, Villa 0. Pascal Gross raises the right long sleeve shirt into the air. His corner towards that back post. It was won initially by Veltman, and in fact it might have been his touch that carried it behind for a Villa goal kick.
Yeah, you're going to have to do better than that against Aston Villa. Their organisation is quite good, and you look at the players that they've got on. They've got Pau Torres, Diego Carlos, Konza, 3 big lads, and then you throw Morgan Rogers into that. You're going to have to do better than just standing a simple ball up and hoping that one of your centre-backs is going to win it.
Roberto De Zerbi is stood about 30 feet in front of us, just on the edge of his technical area, with his black coat and black trousers on and his bright white trainers. He's got his hands in his pockets. The Brighton Italian manager, hoping that his team can deliver something a little more today that is akin to his tenure compared to the past few weeks that have been quite a way off a Roberto De Zerbi Brighton team. There's a long ball forward from Diego Carlos, is too long and runs all the way through to Verbruggen.
Yeah, Unai Emery's furious with him. He just thinks there's another pass before it has to go into Ollie Watkins, and I think that's what he was talking about the other night, is just the decision making at times was a little bit too frantic, and that was what Diego Carlos did there, just hurried the pass a little bit too much.
He's been a sub for the past couple of Premier League games, Diego Carlos, for Aston Villa. Here's Veltman in the right back position for Brighton, coming short to get it is Welbeck, back with Veltman again, and then Gross goes back to Verbruggen, and this was where Brighton were caught so short against Manchester City, trying to play out. City swamped that press, didn't they? And it worked over and over again.
Yeah, it did. But you're going up against one of the best pressing teams in world football. Very difficult to get out. But this is what I'm saying again, Chris. Look where Brighton have ended up. They've done extremely well to get out, but then they're still playing around the back four.
Roberto De Zerbi is a little irritated by something down there beneath us. Off goes Igor with a commanding run from the left-back position. He's worked it out to Adingra on the left-hand side, who runs with pace into the box towards the near post, headed away by Diego Carlos, only half cleared. Then João Pedro had a swipe at it. That took a deflection off McGinn, and Brighton have got another corner 10 minutes in, 0-0.
Yeah, well, they've worked that well a couple of times now, where they found Adingra out on that left-hand side. Konza needs a little bit of help from his winger. Adingra with a pull ball into the box, and then as it comes out to João Pedro, it's well blocked by John McGinn, and it leads to another corner.
I was surprised to see the two men who are leading the scoring charts at the centre of that Brighton attack, João Pedro and Simon Adingra. João Pedro's got 19 this season, Adingra's got 7 in all competitions, and Brighton have got a corner here. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0 on 5 Live and 5 Live's BBC Sounds, as the referee Rob Jones is spotting a bit of pushing and shoving going on inside the edge of that 6-yard box that Villa are defending here.
I always find it interesting that Unai Emery sits down on set pieces and Austin McPhee comes out to the technical area, because he's in charge of this department of this part of the game.
And you cannot miss Austin McPhee, can you, with that long blonde hair stood beneath us. He is watching on intently here, Aston Villa's set-piece coach. In comes the Brighton corner, Webster's header over the top of the crossbar. It was a towering leap from the Brighton centre-half, but he couldn't quite keep it down.
Yeah, good effort. Just, like you say, couldn't quite get it on target. But he gets the run on the Aston Villa players. But this one's fizzed right under the crossbar, and it allows the centre-back to get a couple of blocks in. I think it's Lewis Dunk who blocks Diego Carlos, and it allows Webster to get that header.
Has actually scored at Villa Park before. Adam Webster did it in October 2019. Here is Douglas Luiz being forced out to the left-hand side on the halfway line. In fact, he's had to go all the way back to Luca Digne, the Villa left-back, and he gives it across to John McGinn, who was saying off the back of that Olympiacos defeat during the week that everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong for us on Thursday night. You were there, Stephen.
Absolutely it did. It was just one of those games where you're looking at the heavens at times thinking, what is going on? Nothing can, surely nothing else can happen, and then they missed that penalty late on in the game. Quite incredible.
Well, Villa will still feel, I think, that they fancy themselves to get something from that game. That second leg on Thursday night, by the way, for Aston Villa, as Bailey scampers down the right-hand side for Villa. A bit of support coming from Morgan Rogers. He's got it onto his left foot. He's trying to run across the edge of the box. He's tumbled. He's not going to get a free kick. And Brighton are going to bring it away with a Dingra, and he gives it to Buonanotte, and Gilmour goes back to Verbruggen. So let's go back to Ibrox. Start of the second half. Rangers Kilmarnock. Gavin Wallace.
That's right, Chris. Rangers 1, Kilmarnock 1. That first goal came, it was a Tavernier own goal on 13. Fabio Silva just before half time. Second half underway, and Rangers really starting to ramp up the pressure. Rangers 1, Kelly 1.
Cheers, Gavin. Thank you very much. They began the day, Rangers 6 points behind Celtic, but obviously this is a game in hand for them, so that's one you feel they have to win if they're going to maintain their push for another Scottish Premiership title.
Liam Bailey's just gone down under a challenge, and I don't understand how Rob Jones has missed it. He's missed two. First he got his Achilles stood on, then he gets his feet swiped from underneath him, and he's about 10 yards away, Rob Jones. And Unai Emery is going ballistic down in front of us, asking the question, how can you miss that? I could see it from here, and he's on the other side of the pitch, and Rob Jones is 10 yards away.
Not that I'm making any excuses at all for Rob Jones, but his last game that he refereed was Manchester United against Coventry City in that FA Cup semi-final at Wembley, and I imagine that took a few days to get over and recover from.
Yeah, a little bit, but then it's part and parcel of the game, and that's... Listen, the referees have been under the microscope a lot this season. They're afraid to make decisions, I think, because of the backlash that they might be getting, but just back yourself, be strong enough, and don't rely on VAR to help you out of things.
Villa in possession on the edge of their own box. They haven't tested, though, Verbruggen so far like Brighton have. Olsen. Early goal at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea West Ham. Mike Williams.
Chelsea 1, West Ham 0, and you know who's got it. Cole Palmer with his 21st of the season. He is not out of that golden boot running just yet. Cool as you like finish, and Chelsea deserve it after some early pressure. The ball loose in the box. It was lost by Jackson, fell to Palmer, who left foot buried it into the back of the West Ham net. Chelsea 1, West Ham 0.
I imagine that Cole Palmer, watching the Manchester City Wolves game yesterday, his heart must have sunk when he saw Erling Haaland bash 4 goals past Jose Sarr in that golden boot race.
Yeah, it'd be nice individually for him, but listen, the move's worked out, hasn't it? I mean, it's been an incredible move for both parties, for Chelsea and for Cole Palmer individually. And we were talking before about players potentially going to the Euros. Well, I'm sure he will be going to the Euros. You can't not take him.
Here is Lewis Dunk, the Brighton centre-half, giving it to Adam Webster. We're up to the quarter-hour mark now as Webster clips the ball down the right-hand side. Pascal Gross has started his run too soon. The offside flag is raised against him, and it is going to be an Aston Villa free kick. Unbeaten in their last 4 in the Premier League, Villa. Of course, the only team to beat Arsenal in the Premier League in 2024 as well. Could well be that Villa end up being the difference between Arsenal getting their hands on a Premier League trophy or not in terms of what's happened in this calendar year.
Yeah, very true. I mean, it was a great performance from Aston Villa at the Emirates, wasn't it? The way that they played and stuck in there in the first half, but second half performance, wow. The energy levels, but the confidence. I mean, Emery, I think he spoke after the game, was saying that the defenders needed to take more time on the ball and draw the Arsenal players out, and they certainly did that.
And what I found amazing about that game is, of course, Arsenal had a European game on the Tuesday. Villa had one on the Thursday, and yet it was Villa who came on strong in the latter stages.
Yeah, quite incredible.
There's real character in this Villa squad, isn't there? Here is Pau Torres on the edge of his own box. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0, and another big chance at Stamford Bridge. Mike Williams.
Almost an immediate response for West Ham. 30 seconds after going behind, up the other end, a corner swung in. Jared Bowen loses his marker. Cucurella at the near post, got his header away, crashed off the bar. It remains Chelsea 1, West Ham 0.
Massive game in the Women's Super League today, just underway between Manchester City and Arsenal at Joy Stadium. Maz Faruqi.
Yeah, 2 minutes played, goalless here between Manchester City and Arsenal. City making just one change to their starting 11. Kirsten Kasparov coming in with Alana Kennedy dropping to the bench. 4 Arsenal changes. Remember, City could win the WSL title today. Several things need to happen for that. First of all, they need to win this game at the moment goalless.
Chelsea against Bristol City is tonight from 6:45 in the WSL, and you can hear live commentary of that on 5 Live Sports Extra. It could be a pivotal day in that title race in the Women's Super League. Could be a very big day for Aston Villa, but to get Champions League football today, secured by tonight, they have to win here at Brighton. They have to hope that Tottenham lose later as well at Anfield in our 4:30 commentary, Liverpool against Spurs. And right now, Stephen Warnock, there isn't too much of a suggestion of a Villa goal forthcoming anytime soon.
No, there's not. He's just missed another one, Rob Jones. I cannot believe what I've just watched. Again, he's on the far touchline. Adingra pulls Leon Bailey's shirt round his shoulder, pulls him to the ground, and he just tells him to get up. And Unai Emery again on at the 4th official, but they've not been good enough so far, Aston Villa. They haven't produced anything to hurt this Brighton backline and test the goalkeeper.
They're not in possession at the moment either, Aston Villa. 18 minutes in, Brighton 0, Villa 0. The chances so far, the big one, I guess, that one for Simon Adingra from the edge of the area that Robin Olsen pushed away. As Brighton build with Buonanotte in the centre of the park, the young Argentine who's lost out, and Bailey's got it back for Villa. And it is in the back line with the tall frame of Diego Carlos, and he has turned and gone back to his Swedish goalkeeper Robin Olsen, who has played here and kept a clean sheet before in the game with Everton 3 years ago. Of course, no Emi Martinez again today for Aston Villa, preserving him perhaps for Thursday night. And thoughts of that big game against Olympiacos, that second leg?
Yeah, quite possibly. They won't want to rush him, will they? Want to make sure that he's fully fit and available. If he can make it for that game, it'd be vitally important.
Came off at half-time against Chelsea with a thigh injury, Martinez. Douglas Luiz for Villa. Plays the ball out to the left-hand side, ran underneath the boot of Moussa Diaby. And again, it's triggered Unai Emery to come to the edge of his technical area to enthusiastically clap to try and gee his team up.
Do you know, there's been a big difference in Unai Emery's body language today. Sometimes he can be a little bit disappointed in the players and the decisions that they make. Everything that has happened today has been making sure that he applauds them and gets behind them.
So close now, aren't they, Villa, to getting Champions League football for the first time in its current format, but they're in danger here. McGinn is scrapping away with Adingra on the edge of his own box, and in the end he gets the free kick, but he very nearly lost the ball to the Ivorian there in a dangerous position.
No, he did, but he got that backside in, didn't he, that he uses so well. Make sure that he protects the ball. He actually goes to ground, John McGinn, and then he scoops the ball back round. Lovely close control from him.
I was reading a great story about John McGinn a couple of weeks ago about how he was in a lift and he spotted Lothar Matthäus, the German great, and obviously with all eyes on Scotland and Germany coming up in the opening game at Euro 2024, and he said hello to Lothar Matthäus, and Lothar Matthäus completely ignored him. And John McGinn said it crushed his heart. So John McGinn will be hoping he knows exactly who he is by the time June rolls around.
Yeah, absolutely. What a story that is. Brilliant.
Here's Adingra for Brighton, just inside Villa's half, infield towards Gilmore. Back to Adingra, it's a lovely 1-2, Adingra fizzing it across, it's too close to Olsen. Caught it at chest height on the edge of his 6-yard box and bowls it out quickly to Morgan Rogers, just to try and get Villa moving here. We've gone past the 20-minute mark. Bailey's having to go backwards to keep the ball, which was the right move, and it's still Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. Stephen Warner.
Well, he's the player, isn't he, Adingra? Every time he gets on the ball, you just hear the crowd pick up. Just the final pass. That's all it is at the moment for Adingra. He just got a little bit carried away, wanted to fizz it in a fraction too early. He had plenty of time because he'd got past Konza quite easily.
Noise coming from the away end over towards our right-hand side. Those Villa fans in the south stand at this Amex Stadium. There are 1 or 2 seats I can spot in this ground today, not in the away end. That Villa at away end is absolutely packed out, but there are a few blue seats dotted around inside this impressive Amex Stadium with its sloping roof and the floodlights needed today with the grey skies above us here. But it isn't a cold afternoon, it is a very mild one, as Pascal Gross, Brighton's German midfielder, chief creator nothing on going forward for him, so back to Lewis Dunk, who gets hit again off Billy Gilmour. But all of this happening at the moment halfway inside Brighton's half, and there isn't really the intention from Aston Villa to go and press those Brighton defenders.
No, they won't, because they know that's exactly what they want to do, and they're used to training with that every single day. They've got an issue here. Morgan Rogers has gone down.
Not sure what's happened for Morgan Rogers there, because that wasn't anything that happened in the immediate play that we were watching there. He sort of sat down on the floor and asked for the treatment.
Yeah, well, I just noticed Matty Cash had gone out to warm up, and I looked at the clock, and usually it'd be around about 30 minutes, 25, 30 minutes when the players would first go and warm up, and then a couple of the Villa subs followed him out as well. So maybe he has picked up an issue, Morgan Rogers.
Well, this will be a massive blow if Villa lose him today, because he's been in such good form in recent weeks. 3 goals and an assist in his last 5 league games for the 21-year-olds.
He's holding his hamstring. He's just pointed to his hamstring as the physios come on to sort of stretch and test it, see where it's at.
Talking of Cole Palmer and that goal he scored today for Chelsea, of course, when Villa played Chelsea last week, Morgan Rogers scored, got the Cole Palmer celebration out, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I actually saw that Cole Palmer said he got it from Morgan Rogers, and he originally had done it at Middlesbrough.
Ah.
So there you go.
So actually the trademark belongs to Morgan.
Apparently so, yeah.
Okay. Well, that is worth knowing. I think Villa are actually going to have to make a change here, because already the 4th official is striding out purposefully towards the edge of the pitch here with the digital board in his hands. So it is the end of the afternoon for Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, Matty Cash is going to come on. He'll play higher up. Maybe Leon Bailey will nip inside.
I just hope that this isn't the end of not just the game but the season for Morgan Rogers, with him no doubt feeling that he's built up a real head of steam in recent weeks.
Yeah, I think when you're testing it the way they're testing it, it's just how long can he last for? Can we get him through the game, or is it just he's running off, which is a good sign. I think he just needs to just relax and go off the pitch and know that he's got to be ready for Thursday if he can get to that game.
Short bit of applause towards the Aston Villa supporters over towards his left-hand side. Morgan Rogers, as he leaves the pitch, he removes a bit of tape from his finger, and he has lasted 25 minutes this afternoon, the Aston Villa youngster. So he is coming off. Matty Cash is not ready to come on yet. I saw him hurriedly trying to get bits of equipment on Matty Cash down in the Villa substitute area towards our right hand side. He hasn't even got a shirt on yet either, so he's not ready to come on. So players restarted, with Villa having to go with 10 for the time being, as Adingra has the ball for Brighton. Here is Gilmour, 20 yards outside the box, lifts it up to the far post. Veltman on his left foot, shoots low, blocked by Digne, hooked back in again by Veltman, but the flag is up against the Brighton fullback for offside. Free kick Villa, and now they can make that change with Matty Cash.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the embrace between Unai Emery and Matty Cash, and he calls him Cash, and he sort of grabs him by the face and embraces him and says, he's pointing to him now, telling him what he expects of him. But he'll bring an energy, Matty Cash, to that right hand side, and they have lacked a little bit, and Bailey's now come out onto the left hand side. Diaby's gone through the middle alongside Ollie Watkins, and Matty Cash will play off that right hand side in front of Ezri Konsa.
So let's head to Newmarket as Aston Villa make that change for the Dahlia Stakes, the 225. John Hunt.
This for older horses, Chris, fillies and mares, just 6 of them, and they've split into a group of 4 and a group of 2. The group of 4 led by Heartache Tonight and favourite Running Lion. They're followed by Carnarvon and Stay Alert. The group of 2, Astral Bow ahead of Silver Lady, and they're now both being ridden along, as now up front Running Lion eases to the front, just under a quarter of a mile left to go. Running Lion goes for home, chased now by Stay Alert, Carnarvon backpedaling, Heartache Tonight is next, and further back Astral Bow, Silver Lady making no real show at all into the famous dip here at Newmarket, and a furlong left to go. The leader is Running Lion, but Stay Alert is coming now to try and challenge. Stay Alert's finishing strongly, forges on now. Stay Alert goes on to run away with this, beats the favourite Running Lion, and Carnarvon back in third place. A nice winner there, a big race winner for trainer Hughie Morrison and David Egan. Jockey David Egan does not have a ride in the 1,000 guineas, which is now, Chris, just over an hour away.
Yep, 3:40. Thanks very much, John. We'll be back with you for that as well. Live commentary here on 5 Live as Brighton and Aston Villa still locked at 0-0. And really, Stephen Wall, at 27 minutes in, Brighton in possession in their own half. We haven't had an influx of chances, have we?
No, we haven't. We've seen flashes from Adingra from Brighton, but nothing from Aston Villa. He had a nice move as that race was going on, where Ollie Watkins got in behind, but the ball was overhit by Diaby. But it's been a game lacking in any real chances, and I'll probably say it, in any real quality as well.
Noted that in the last 11 games for Brighton, the only goals that they've scored have been from Danny Welbeck or own goals. Welbeck's got 2, there's been 2 own goals. Otherwise, for the last player outside of an own goal or Danny Welbeck, you've got to go back to the 24th of February for the last Brighton goal, which was scored by Lewis Dunk here against Everton. Talking of goals, big one at Ibrox, Rangers Kilmarnock, Gavin Wallace.
Massive one indeed, Chris. It's for Rangers. Rangers 2, Kilmarnock 1. The ball came in a corner. It got recycled out towards John Lundstrom. His shot saved by Will Dennis. And Ben Davies was first on the scene to tap home. Rangers 2, Kilmarnock 1.
Cheers, Gavin. They come from behind Rangers then to leading that game as Joel Veltman sends the ball back to Vartbruggen, his goalkeeper, who had to readjust his feet quite quickly there. Brighton are going to play out with Webster to Gilmore. They've done it really well, Brighton. Out to the left-hand side for Igor, back in field towards Gilmore. Now for Adingra, who tried to quickly turn it on towards Billy Gilmore, and ultimately too quick. That's irritated Roberto De Zerbi below us as well, as Villa get the ball back.
Yeah, he just tries things a little bit too quickly at times, doesn't he? And it's much to the frustration of the manager, Roberto De Zerbi, as he throws his water bottle to the floor.
What has gone, going back to that Brighton stat, what has gone wrong? Is it injuries? Is it something Roberto De Zerbi said? Because he's had plenty to say, hasn't he, in the press in recent weeks? Or is there something more to it? Hold that thought. Here come Villa. Pau Torres down the left-hand side. He's carried it 50 yards, swings it in left-footed, a little too deep. Cash isn't going to keep it in at the far post, and it's a Brighton goal kick, 0-0.
I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think there's when you don't score goals, you start to lose confidence and start to lose your way a little bit. And I think what we're seeing with Brighton is there's a lot of what we talked about before. It's lovely round the back, but then getting through the lines and making sure that you get higher up the pitch, they're finding that very difficult. Matoma's a huge miss. I mean, he's a ball carrier, very, very strong at sort of taking the team 50-60 yards higher up the pitch, and people like that have a huge difference on the way that your team can play.
And you almost feel like you have to mention the players that are missing right now for Brighton. Lallana, Milner, Van Hecke, Mitoma, March, Hinshelwood, Estupiñán, Ferguson, Lamptey. It's quite some list. Another goal at Stamford Bridge, Mike Williams.
Chelsea 2-0 up here and in control as we tick into the half-hour mark. This time it's the captain, Conor Gallagher, capitalising on a loose ball from Madueke. He picked it up, Gallagher, and drove it into the bottom corner of the West Ham net. West Ham really have offered nothing so far, not a single shot on target from the visitors. Chelsea in control, 2-0.
Conor Gallagher's having a good couple of weeks in terms of goal involvements, the Chelsea midfielder. So a couple of goals there, none here between Brighton and Aston Villa. And you can listen to that game right now via the BBC Sport website with Mark Scott and Franny Benali, the former Southampton defender. But here it is, still Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0, and Unai Emery, and you've noted this, the positive body language, despite the fact that his team have not looked like a Villa team that we've seen in recent weeks in terms of the intensity, the attacking flow.
Yeah, it's not been as of yet, but he's not getting too irate with things. He's applauding things when passes aren't quite getting there, but the intent's there. It has been a huge difference for Unai Emery.
Here's Gross, who has that lovely sort of style about him with the sloped shoulders, a low flat ball to the left hand side for Adingra, who's on the edge of Villa's penalty area, the Brighton winger. It's back with Igor, who puts his foot on the ball, sends it back 5 yards for Gilmore, underneath his foot, but it was okay because Lewis Dunk was behind him. Now Webster's been put under pressure and he's been forced back by Ollie Watkins to his goalkeeper.
So they've just had the ball in the high left side of the pitch with Adingra, and now the back passing the ball around their own back line again, Brighton. there's something just missing where they can't quite find them passes through to open up defences or to sort of bypass the midfield press that they're finding that Aston Villa are putting on them, and now they're back passing it slowly round the back again,
which is perhaps arguably where they are most comfortable, Brighton, really. Here's Webster to Dunk. It was a little astray of him. It's been a slightly wobbly 31 minutes so far from Adam Webster. That wasn't the slickest pass, and Dunk has given it to Verbruggen, whose touch had to be tight, and it was. And he gets Brighton out of it by giving it to Gilmour, and he's given it to Webster and into the feet of Pascal Gross, 20 yards or so outside his own penalty area here. Pascal Gross, 32 minutes in, Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0.
Have you mentioned Danny Welbeck's name yet?
Hardly.
He hasn't had an influence on the game at all, has he? He's not been able to get on the ball. Him and João Pedro, who's just picked it up now, but they've just been bystanders and not contributing to the game at all.
Roberto De Zerbi was actually speaking about Danny Welbeck this week and saying that he's close to agreeing a new contract with the club, the 33-year-old. His deal is up in the summer.
He's been brilliant for them. He has. He's been outstanding, but that's where I'm talking about. You've got to find him. You've got to be able to pick him out.
And João Pedro on the edge of Villa's penalty area up against Cash. Clips it back for Igor. Now on the edge of the box is Gilmour. On it goes from Webster to the right-hand side for Veltman. Tried to push it through the gap. He's going to get a second chance here to give it to Pascal Gross, who's returned it to Veltman, who can cross low from the right-hand side. Blocked out by Pau Torres, cleared away with his right foot by the Villa defender. And it's up towards the halfway line. Haven't really mentioned Danny Welbeck's name. I don't feel like I've mentioned Ollie Watkins either in the 33 minutes. So it's both forwards, really.
Yeah, but they're struggling to get into the game, aren't they? They're just almost getting everything that we're hearing and seeing is passes round the back from both sets of teams, but more so Brighton.
Wasted ball forward from Adam Webster. All the way out of play for an Aston Villa goal kick. We haven't had a goal here, but Maz Faruqi, you do have one.
We do. It's been a pretty even start, Chris, but Manchester City have the goal they need to try and put the pressure on Chelsea. Remember, if they win today, they could win the WSL title, and their goal has been scored by Lauren Hemp. 18 minutes played here. Manchester City 1, Arsenal 0.
And straight from the WSL to the snooker, Jamie Broughton.
And Karen Wilson is playing Jack Jones in the final here, and it's Wilson that's made a flying start this afternoon. He's won the opening 4 frames with breaks of 129, 52, 47, 43 and 66. We're at the mid-session interval. He's leading 4-0. 18 is the target to be crowned champion.
Watkins with the touchdown towards Digne on the halfway line for Villa. 0-0. Digne trying to clip it forward for Watkins again.
Wow.
Oh, brilliant touch, Watkins into the penalty area. Now what can he do? He cannot go any further, Ollie Watkins. And that is unlucky because his initial touch was one Stephen Warnock that had everybody off their feet.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's just picked it out the sky, flicked it inside Lewis Dunk. So difficult to describe it, but as it's coming over his left shoulder, he uses his right foot and he uses the outside of his foot and pushes it inside into the pitch. Quite brilliant from Ollie Watkins, and I was thinking, just hit it now, and he tries to take on another defender and ruins the move.
He's hardly seen any of the ball, Ollie Watkins, and then he can go and do that, and that is the sign of a player that is playing with extreme confidence at the moment. Another opportunity to tell you about at Stamford Bridge, Mike Williams.
Chelsea almost out of sight before half-time here. There could be 3 up. Noni Madueke, lovely trickery from him. Just shrugged off Emerson, got his shot away just wide of Areola's left-hand post. In comes the corner from the other side. This one goes up and is eventually headed in at the far post. I think who's gone away to celebrate there? It could be Madueke himself. That's who they're all rushing around. There was a goal-mouth scramble. It is Madueke, the man who just had the chance, whose effort caused the corner. The corner eventually nodded in by Madueke, and now it is Chelsea 3, West Ham 0, and West Ham have been absolutely woeful. Chelsea now home and home surely, 3-0 up.
And we've only played 35 minutes there as well, and I was at West Ham's game at Crystal Palace a couple of weeks ago where they had a disastrous first half and we're out of the game by half-time, and it looks like it's happened again today.
Yeah, there's so much talk going on around West Ham at the moment about David Moyes' position. I think talking about the sporting director not being able to come in the changing room because he's now looking for other managers. It's just turned a little bit sour, hasn't it, for West Ham at the moment.
Talk of Julian Lopetegui joining West Ham United, which would be interesting, the former Wolves manager. Here's Welbeck for Brighton on the edge of Villa's penalty area. Buonanotte was about to take aim. Cash then took it away from him. Didn't actually know he was coming because Cash has come over his shoulder and has got a boot in, and it's helped Villa out.
Yeah, he's a full-back's dream, Matty Cash, if he's playing as a winger, because he understands that side of the game, and then gets back and pinches the ball off him. Good defending from Matty Cash.
If you are just joining us, he's come on as a substitute in this first half, Matty Cash, for Villa, because Morgan Rogers has gone off injured. For Brighton today, Verbruggen, Veltman, Webster, Dunk, Igor, Gilmour and Gross, Adingra, Buonanotte, Joao Pedro and Welbeck. And Villa's team, Olsen in goal. No Martinez because of injury again today. Konza, Torres, Carlos, Digne, Douglas Luiz and McGinn, Bailey, Diaby, Cash and Watkins. But a game that so far, 37 minutes in, Stephen Warnock, has been very, very short of clear opportunities for either, on a day where Villa could secure Champions League football.
I love the way he's trying to be so kind about the game being poor. Yeah, it's just not been there at the moment, has it? I think there's a little bit of negativity from Brighton in the fact that they've not scored, they've not really played well, they know they're on a poor run at the moment, and Villa, so much on the line for them, and you can see there's nerves there.
Did have a Brighton against Aston Villa game yesterday as well in the WSL. There's only one goal in that. Villa won it by 1-0. Of course, the news this week that Carla Ward, the Aston Villa manager, is going to be leaving at the end of the season. Let's head to Ibrox. How significant could this goal be then, Gavin Wallace?
Oh, it's massive in the race for the title, Chris. Rangers 3, Kilmarnock 1. It's been coming all this second half. Tom Lawrence is just on the park, gets it midway inside the Kelly half. He cuts over to his right-hand side and then wraps his foot round it, puts it into the top corner, just at the edge of the D. Great goal. Rangers 3, Kilmarnock 1.
So it looks like Rangers are going to be moving within 3 points again of Celtic at the top of the Scottish Premiership. Back to Stamford Bridge we go, Mike Williams.
Conor Gallagher hits the deck, no penalty, says referee Andrew Madley, but just before that, the two goal scorers for Chelsea linking up lovely down this right-hand side. Cole Palmer whipping a ball in. Conor Gallagher got the ball out from underneath his feet, and it cannoned off the crossbar. Cole Palmer already on the score sheet, as is Gallagher. Chelsea in cruise control, 3-0 up.
I feel like Mike Williams has given us more pertinent commentary from Stamford Bridge today as our main commentary game here on 5 Live, because everything's happened there. And very, very little has happened here as the sun, temporarily at least, threatens to peek through the clouds down here in East Sussex. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. And there is a slow approach at the moment from the Villa defenders, who are in possession of the ball as it goes back to their very tall Robin Olsen, the 73 capped Swedish international, who gives it out to Pau Torres, now with Diego Carlos on the edge of his own penalty area, towards Ezri Konza, and back with Diego Carlos, and all the way back to Robin Olsen again. And this Villa team, who are unbeaten in their last 4 in the Premier League. 2-goal leads, though, lost in recent weeks against both Brentford and Chelsea in that time, and they've lost the ball here to Brighton. Buonanotte trying to work it to Adingra, shifting it across the edge of the box for Veltman. On it goes further to the right for Gross. Low ball in, stopped by Douglas Luiz. Read the situation well, and it was a nice touch by Douglas Luiz as well. And then Digne's clearance has bounced off Buonanotte, and it's out of play for an Aston Villa goal kick.
Well, we spoke about him before the game, didn't we, about not having one of his greatest games in midweek against Olympiacos, but he was so calm in the penalty box then as it gets fizzed along. I'm thinking someone's just going to clear this. He just kills it. Depth of touch, lovely from Douglas Luiz.
And he has scored as well in his last couple of appearances against Brighton. He got one of the 6 that Villa got in the victory back in September at Villa Park between these two. Ollie Watkins scored a hat-trick that day. But no opportunities have come his way, or indeed to any Villa player so far, as Douglas Luiz shifts the ball out towards this left-hand side for Bailey. Now Digne up towards the halfway line for Watkins. Webster was on him in a flash, and he's prodded it out of play for a Villa throw, and Digne's come over to get the ball off his manager Unai Emery in all black, down in front of us towards our right-hand side. 1 month, by the way, between the two appointments of these managers, back at the end of 2022, Roberto De Zerbi and Unai Emery. And both of them have had real positive impacts since they came in at Brighton and Aston Villa respectively.
Yeah, I think what you can see though is Aston Villa's progression's been a little bit more, but you've got to take into account the players that have been sold from under from De Zerbi. When you look at Caicedo, McAllister, big money bought in, and it's a different structure of club the way it's run.
Yeah, Villa have spent the money in that time, and Brighton have raked it in, haven't they? And that's ultimately been the main difference between the two.
Different business models, and that's just the way the teams are run, isn't it? I think there's huge ambition from Aston Villa to be a Champions League team, and I think with the owners who are mightily ambitious, a manager who's outstanding as well, I think they can definitely achieve that for a number of years.
3.5 minutes of the first half to go here on 5 Live and via BBC Sounds. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. Who is the first one of us two that's going to blink and call this game boring?
I think you already have, but you just haven't said it.
Here's Digne for Villa, who comes in to give it to Bailey, who has slipped, and Buonanotte on the halfway line takes it away from him. Off goes Welbeck, through the middle of Adingra, out comes Olsen. Adingra lunged in at him, Olsen got the ball. Adingra might have caught the Aston Villa goalkeeper in his, I think, genuine attempts to try and reach the ball. Olsen is in a crumpled heap at the moment inside his own penalty area.
Well, they can't afford to lose another goalkeeper. Leon Bailey slips in the middle of the park, and then Danny Welbeck picks a lovely little ball out into the centre forward, into Adingra, who comes off the line. Brave goalkeeping by Olsen. Had to make sure he got there. I think Adingra slips as he goes in with Olsen. Not intentional to catch the goalkeeper, but it is good goalkeeping from Olsen.
Just about managed to avoid Robin Olsen the knee, I think, of Simon Adingra, because it was so close to smashing the Swedish goalkeeper in the face.
Yeah, but that's the job. You've got to come out, you've got to be brave, you've got to make sure that you put the attacking player off. If he stays on his line, it's potentially a goal, and almost certainly a goal. So really good goalkeeping from him. A goalkeeper who's been in the spotlight of late because of trying to step in and fill the shoes of Emi Martinez.
Well, Villa's third choice goalkeeper has been sent out to warm up here. I say third choice, of course, because Martinez is not in the Villa squad today. Joe Gauci, the Australian international, who arrived from Adelaide United in the summer, in the January window, I should say, for £1.3 million. Probably wasn't expecting an opportunity when he came in back in February for Premier League minutes, but Robin Olsen is still down on the ground at the moment, so clearly there is some concern over the Villa keeper.
Yeah, he's just sat up now, so that's a good sign for the goalkeeper. It didn't look like it was a real bad collision. I think he's just probably trying to slow the game down a little bit. Now he's back on his feet.
Don't think we need to slow the game down anymore, do we?
That's very true.
Let's go back to Stamford Bridge while Robin Olsen continues to get some treatment. Chelsea West Ham, Mike Williams.
West Ham have hit the bar at the other end for the second time this match. Jarrod Bowen has just seen his effort miss by inches. It's West Ham's best chance of the match. Corner on this left-hand side, swung in. Bowen with his back to goal, turn and shot, and it hit the bar. And at the other end, Chelsea now have a free kick in a promising position. You know who, Cole Palmer standing over it, but they still continue to lead West Ham by 3-0.
So a very positive result, it seems, for Chelsea today, in their hopes of potentially catching Manchester United, maybe getting into one of those European spots. Chelsea, they'll certainly have their eye on it. And here for Aston Villa, just a reminder of the situation today. They're fourth, Villa, in the Premier League table at the start of play, 67 points. Spurs behind them on 60 points. They've got 4 left to play, Villa including this one with 3 left to play. Tottenham at Liverpool later in our 4:30 commentary. John Murray and Dion Dublin are there for that one, and we're back underway after the injury to Robin Olsen, who is being deemed okay to continue. And Villa have got a free kick here for a foul on John McGinn, 10 yards inside Brighton's half, and we are about to find out how many minutes we're going to have added on at the end of the 45. Stephen Warnock.
What are you going for? I'm going to go for a 4.
Okay, I was going to say 5, so let's have a look. It is 5 minutes.
You got that in your... Someone told you.
What do you think? I had a little preview.
Yeah, definitely.
Watching the digital display for 2 minutes rather than watching the game, maybe. Here we go, free kick Villa. Douglas Luiz lifting it in. Not a great free kick from him. He's sort of suggesting that 1 or 2 Villa players should have been a bit more alert to what he was about to do, but it didn't look like he got that quite right, Douglas Luiz, and Brighton have got it out for a Villa throw on the far right.
No, poor execution, wasn't it, from Douglas Luiz, who's usually on the money. So technically sound with everything that he does.
So throw to Villa, just inside the Brighton half on the opposite side to us, the far right hand side. So in front of the east stand. Konza is having a look around to see what he wants to do with it. Tries to get it down the line for Watkins. Away by Dunk. Forward again by Konza. And then hooked mightily downfield by Igor for Brighton up to the halfway line where McGinn takes it out of the sky nonchalantly.
Beautiful touch.
Lovely that, wasn't it, from John McGinn. And off go Villa with Pau Torres on the halfway line, short in towards the feet of the Brazilian Douglas Luiz. Here's Ollie Watkins coming short to get it for Villa. Probably wanting to get a bit of a feel for the ball, Ollie Watkins. Bailey, Watkins, bit better this from Unai Emery's team. Watkins up to the edge of the penalty area. Digne on the left-hand side, firm challenge on him by Welbeck, and then hacked away by Pascal Gross back into Villa's half.
Oh, he's ran into the brick wall of Danny Welbeck, didn't he? I mean, that was some strength from Danny Welbeck. He just ran through Luca Digne.
Still Brighton 0, Villa 0 as Douglas Luiz wins the aerial challenge on the halfway line with Buonanotte. Pascal Gross at the moment in the right back area. Gives the ball back to Bart Verbruggen, his goalkeeper, who has started now 7 of the last 8 games for Brighton in the Premier League. So it does feel like, compared to earlier in the season, we've seen a shift now from Roberto De Zerbi, that he's moved away from Jason Steele for the Premier League games.
Yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? And it's just understanding the system and how that they want to play out from the back and having that confidence to be able to do it.
Here's Gilmour with a slight frame, giving it to João Pedro. Bright red boots, 5 yards outside Villa's box. Left-footed ball in towards the far post. Adingra met it, but he didn't hit it cleanly enough, and that's why in the end it wasn't a problem for Robin Olsen to save it.
Oh, what a spot from João Pedro to see Adingra coming in at the back post. He just couldn't quite get the connection on it he wanted because he was stretching. He was at full stretch trying to get that shot on target.
2 best chances of the game, certainly from a Brighton perspective. Both have come the way of Simon Adingra now.
Yeah, they have, and he makes such clever runs, and João Pedro, as he dips inside, and Adingra comes in behind Ezri Konsa and makes sure that he's sort of running off the back of his shoulder so he can't spot him, can't pick him up. Such a difficult skill as a defender to be able to see that player behind you.
Hasn't scored since February, Simon Adingra for Brighton, when he got a couple in that big Brighton win at Sheffield United. We're deep in stoppage time. It's still Brighton 0, Villa 0, but Brighton are asking a couple of questions at the end of the first half here as Gross comes infield for Buonanotte, back to the halfway line for Dunk, who quickly sweeps it out to the left-hand side for Igor, the Brighton left back. Adingra out on that touchline. Welbeck back with Adingra again, 20 yards outside the Villa's box. He's coming infield. He's got it into the box for Gross. Gross takes it down and Olsen saves it. That's a brilliant stop from Robin Olsen. Wonderful play by Brighton as well in the build-up. The run by Gross, the pick of the pass from Adingra. But Robin Olsen has the final say.
Yeah, and that's where Aston Villa can find themselves vulnerable at times, is the runner from midfield, break that defensive line, and Adingra picks out Pascal Gross. But credit to Robin Olsen because he's so quick off his line, cuts the angle down. Gross tries to move it to the left, and then he actually saves it with his legs.
It was the sprawling right leg, wasn't it, of Robin Olsen that gets it away for a corner, which Brighton take in towards that near post. Commanding punch away by Olsen. He came out, he really meant that. And Rob Jones, the referee, has seen a foul in there as well, either on Olsen or one of those in front of him. And it is a Villa free kick.
Yeah, a couple of big moments for Olsen. He's done well so far in the game. He's come out and saved a one-on-one. He's been pushed one away from Adingra to the right-hand side, and then that save then from Pascal Gross was so important because what Aston Villa can't afford to do is go into half-time at 1-0 down.
There's always an element, isn't there, with a goalkeeper that has hardly played all season, as was the case with Robin Olsen, that he could be a little rusty. Came on in the game against Manchester City where Villa were heavily beaten, then had to come on against Chelsea. Of course, conceded a couple of goals in that game, but so far so good from the man standing in for Emi Martinez today. It's still Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0, and we're right at the end of the first half, and there, right on cue, is the whistle from referee Rob Jones. Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. Stephen Warnock.
Yeah, it's been a tough game to watch, and both sides have been playing the ball nicely round the back, but no real intent to go forward and not really penetrating through either team. And chances have been very few and far between for Aston Villa, but Brighton with the better of the chances.
Well, Villa know they do have that buffer to Spurs, don't they, in terms of getting into those Champions League places, but the only way they could get it done today was if they won here and Spurs were beaten at Anfield. Well, Villa at the moment are not playing their part. Half-time at the Amex Stadium, Brighton 0, Aston Villa 0. They've got a corner. They know they're very close here, Brighton, to a big win, but Barco's ball into the box is blocked, and there is the full-time whistle. And after 6 games without a Premier League win, Brighton finally have one, and there are big hugs exchanged between players on the pitch in blue and white, because Brighton have been waiting a long time for this. But for Aston Villa, a tired display, and one that doesn't necessarily take them towards the Champions League spot and the confirmation that they thought it might today. They're going to have to wait a little longer, and things might be a little nervy for them watching Tottenham later at Anfield. Brighton 1, Aston Villa 0. Stephen Warnock.
Yeah, it's going to be a long bus ride home or plane journey, whichever way they get home. Aston Villa, there'll be a lot of thoughts about the game and disappointment, how they're feeling, ready for that, to watch that game. But the one thing you would say is that they've still just got to win the games, make sure that they concentrate on that, hope that Liverpool do them a favour this afternoon, but that was below par from Aston Villa today.
So for Aston Villa, they are still 4th. There is still 7 points between them and Spurs, but Tottenham have now got 2 games in hand, and with Villa suddenly, unexpectedly perhaps, in their eye line again. The winner from João Pedro, a missed penalty. He scored the follow-up with a couple of minutes to go, and it's finished Brighton 1, Aston Villa 0.